First off, we're being robbed as NFL fans that we don't get to see Justin Herbert in the playoffs.
Who robbed us?
The guy with the, well, you know who it was? The dude with the small hat. Little hat right there that has no clue. We talked about, this is what he's done all year. Yeah, exactly. This guy coaches like he's a Division III coach that nobody cares about. All right, it's hard not to make the playoffs with a franchise quarterback. But congratulations, you did it. How he faces his football team after this one is incredible to me. Look, the Raiders were content. They were going to take the tie. Mm-hmm. They absolutely were going to take the tie. But homeboy said, timeout. What?
No, homeboy.
Timeout. You're brilliant with those timeouts. You got a way better football team than you got beat by, and you lost. You're at home. I just think it's ridiculous. And here's the thing. People praise him. I'm old school. Reg, you're old school. This guy gets it. Yeah. This dude, I mean, he has no idea. He's got no experience. He got nothing. And to me, you inherited a team. All right. You were born on third base, think you hit a triple. That's his cat right here.
RC, all the time, the going for it on fourth down at his own 18-yard line and everything else.
Hey, listen, you know what? I want a risk-averse, right, coach that's okay with kicking the football, whether it's a punt or a field goal. This dude's not okay with that. And Dan defended him early on in the year, talking about his aggression, and this is who he is, and we're going to try to win the game. Well, he went out and he lost the football game yesterday. And he's right, and Rex is right in this sense. There are a lot of teams sitting at home right now excited that the Los Angeles Chargers aren't in the playoffs and the Pittsburgh Steelers are. Mm-hmm. This was Rich Bisaccia finding a way to win a football game by making the smart plays and continuing to give his teams opportunity, and Brandon Staley doing the opposite. Now, what we saw from Justin Herbert last night was absolutely stupid. We were texting on the group chat. I was like, oh, hell. Yeah. Right? And then it was another one. Yeah, it was probably like 7 balls people dropped, not because they were bad throws. He just threw them too damn hard. Right.
What's going on, dudes and dudettes? So, yes, 4-star wide receiver out of Modern Day High School out here in Orange County. CJ Williams has decided to go with USC instead of the likes of UCLA, and he was once committed to Notre Dame, so luckily we beat out both of our rivals for this type of great wide receiver. But yes, definitely glad he's coming. Will be a very big weapon for Lincoln Riley in that offense eventually in the near future. But yes, definitely glad he chose USC over the weekend. Then a couple of big-time Oklahoma transfer portal guys were spotted in LA recently. I know the other day, Mario Williams, the guy who was once like a 5-star wide receiver when he came out of high school and still one of the better guys out there in college football, was spotted in LA, maybe on an official visit or maybe unofficial visit to USC. And then Caleb Williams, the quarterback everybody seems to be talking about from Oklahoma who entered the portal, was on his Instagram at the Rams game yesterday. So, I don't know, hopefully and maybe USC gets a 2-for-1 on these guys and they decide to come to USC. We will lose Jackson Dart most likely, but I mean, to get those type of players, it's pretty big get for USC. So maybe that happens, maybe not, but we'll have to wait and see. Then, yes, the Lakers the other day did beat the Atlanta Hawks pretty handily, like a 15-20 point victory. Both LeBron James and Malik Monk had 29 points, which is pretty good for them. Yes, they got that victory. It was like a 4-game winning streak as well. It's pretty cool, but then the next game, it was last night against Memphis. They did lose, but LeBron did make some history. He got to 7th all-time on the assist record for your career, passing Oscar Robinson, which is pretty cool. Big time guy to pass up, especially on the assist leaderboard. So congrats to LeBron, I guess. But I noticed that Anthony Davis was spotted, and I forget if he had like a shoulder injury or a leg injury, but apparently he still had a brace on during the workout. And usually from guys that I've seen, it's either they're still too afraid that they might re-injure it, or something is still not 100% with them, but he still says everything is still good with the recovery process. So hopefully that is the case and he's not going to be missing a lot more time coming up in the near future. But yeah, overall it does look pretty good for the Lakers, except losing yesterday pretty badly to the Grizzlies. And then Jordan Davis, an interior defensive lineman from Georgia, who's actually going to be playing in the national championship game tonight against Alabama. He was projected in a mock draft by Pro Football Focus to go to the Chargers, who are obviously out of the playoffs, but I'll get into that right now. Yeah, I mean, they definitely have needed a guy like that the past couple of years, but especially this last season, because they were ranked pretty bad defensively and they gave up a lot of pretty big running plays last night. But yeah, he'll definitely solve a lot of issues, but there are a lot of issues with the Chargers right now. And yes, speaking of those dumbass Chargers, yes, I can pretty much replay a bunch of stuff ESPN has said this morning on their various morning shows about the dumb calls by Staley or execution, certain guys playing at the time, whatever, but might as well just give you a little bit more of a raw experience of what I dealt with. I pretty much stopped watching around halftime. I kind of waved the white flag, even told my family, you know, it's pretty much over. I know this team, they're bringing out their rear head again, and yep, definitely knew it was going to happen. But once I found out later in the night, I thought it was already over, so I looked up the score and saw that they were in overtime, so of course I was watching again, but you know how that went. But I think it really could go, I believe the final score was 35-32, I forget. I'm trying to forget it as much as possible, but there was a bad fourth down play early in the game. I think it was in the second quarter, where Staley once again is doing this thing where he wants to go for it on fourth down, be aggressive. Yes, later in the game, because of the situations they put themselves in the third and fourth quarter, they had to go for it on fourth down, but to do it like around your 20-yard line and you're not even past midfield and you've just recently got stopped twice, well, especially on third down, you got stopped with the running play, and then all you want to do is rush up there again to do the same running play, even though you don't have the best offensive lineman or the type of correct running back to do that type of play with. Kind of already knew what was going to happen. Got stopped, and I forget if Raiders scored a touchdown there or a field goal, but either way, that's once again points that should not have been on the board for the Raiders at that time, and maybe makes a difference in the end. You never know, but like I told my family, this is the same old Chargers beating themselves up, and it was weird. And a couple other things. There was a bad timeout that I did see in overtime where, yeah, Raiders came down and scored a field goal, so then Chargers had an opportunity, and then they went down, scored their own field goal barely. So then the Raiders got another opportunity, and they're continuously driving down the field, even though it seemed like the Chargers were waiting for run plays, even though the Raiders were passing and getting first downs. And then, of course, they started running the ball and giving up first downs, which wasn't good. But around midfield, it almost seemed like the Raiders were content in either letting the clock run down or maybe even trying a long field goal at the very end of the game. Definitely a 50-plus yarder, but definitely the Brandon Staley once again steps up and takes a stupid timeout. Yeah, I think he's trying to be competitive and think, well, we might get the ball back, and obviously they weren't going to, because the Raiders could still run the clock down, take the timeout like they did around 2 seconds, and then this will be the play of the game. But after that timeout, I believe the Raiders ended up getting a first down, running a couple more plays, and got even closer for a better shot at a field goal. And at the end of the game, you even see other guys like Eckler talking with other Raiders players, and he gave like kind of like a weird gesture, like almost hearing the fact that, oh, the Raiders were trying to end the game right there at the tie, so that both teams were allowed into the playoffs. And of course, once the timeout was called, the Raiders kind of made up their mind, yeah, if they're gonna mess this up, then we're gonna beat their ass, which is what they did. Overall, very disappointing season. Missed a lot of opportunities, especially against tougher teams. They could have had a couple extra wins, especially the Houston game was weird. Had a lot of guys missing. Should have won that one still. There was a Denver game where they should have won, but stupid mistakes as well. Kansas City game that Thursday night, they should have won, but let that team beat them in overtime again. But, you know, I think Staley deserves a lot of the criticism he's getting, because it's not like he's done this once. Yeah, it's okay to be aggressive on 4th down, but to do it when you're not even close to the 50-yard line, as I mentioned, it's pretty bad. And of course, the Chargers defense have just been like a bunch of open floodgates, especially when it comes to other teams running against them, because they're top 3 in the bottom of when it comes to rushing yards allowed and even points allowed as well. And I think even Staley's comment about taking that timeout in overtime was to get the correct people out there in case the Raiders did run the ball, which they did, and they still continue to get farther down the field. And even though you supposedly put your guys in, you don't have any good guys. Your team has fucking sucked trying to stop the run this year. So I don't know what the fuck he was saying about. Sorry for the cursing, but yes, that's the crap I got to deal with right now. And then still no word yet. I doubt they were gonna fire Staley after that game, but still no word yet on Tom Telesco. A lot of coaches and GMs have been fired already this Monday morning, so you never know. My wish could get granted where the GM gets fired finally, Tom Telesco, because you know Staley did what he could this whole entire year with the type of players that Telesco has brought into the draft and free agency and undrafted players, and obviously wasn't enough, because whenever they had big time injuries, especially at that right tackle position, they never went off and got another good player in a trade, or got a trade for their defensive line either, or linebackers. So yes, overall was a pretty ugly end to this year. Definitely a lot of red flags and a lot of holes in this team. Hopefully it gets situated. Obviously coming up in April is the draft. Luckily I don't have to have any tension or stress about my team playing in the playoffs, so I'm kind of happy about that. But once again, I'm upset when it comes to the draft, because like I said, they're gonna finish around 500, which they were. I think it was like 9-8 or something like that, and they're gonna have a middle to high teens draft pick, which is around 15 or 16 once again, and not gonna get a good enough player. But hopefully a guy like Jordan Davis falls to them. They will definitely be in the most of luck if that does happen. But yes, I'll stop talking about those dumbasses, and hopefully they do fix it. But yes, thanks for watching, people. Like and subscribe. Comment down below. Let me know what y'all think. Have a great rest of your day. Bye. Fight on.